Welcome, Solarah here. I hope you guys are doing well today. It is 22:11 as I begin this collection of downloads, possibly with a reading too, towards the end of the downloads. Let's get into what that actually means, numerologically speaking. One moment, please. So 22 is a number that is connected to Capricorn energy. It is about materializing timelines on the earth planes. It's when water begins to crystallize into matter. That's how I interpret the numerology. 22 is also very connected to divine unions, and that's really a great segue into what tonight's downloads and reading is actually about. And 11 is actually an Aquarian degree that speaks to gates opening. So you put that together and we have gates opening to the crystallization or the materialization of timelines. And some of them have to do with divine unions, which is completely on brand for what it is that I'm here to speak to you on. So without further ado, before I get into the welcomes and everything, I'm going to tell you what the title of tonight's reading is, the main theme around which all the other themes are centered. So you can make a choice early on in the video whether or not you're going to stay or whether or not this is going to resonate for you. The title is excuse me, clear my throat chakra. These divine unions are healing the fabric of the time-space continuum. I'm going to say it again. These divine unions are healing the fabric of the time-space continuum. And before I get into these downloads, and I have a fuck ton of them, like maybe, I think 6 pages at this point of handwritten notes on A4 paper, let me tell you a bit of the journey I've had to take to getting this message to you tonight. So I first began to receive these downloads after I posted the last video I did for you guys, which I believe was on like maybe the Wednesday, the 5th of February, I think I posted the last video. It was a short one, and it was about like wormhole fuckery. I didn't go too deep into it, and I said maybe I'd come back and do it, but I wasn't too keen on it at the time. Well, anyway, when I left, I started to get all of these downloads starting on Friday, the 7th of September. So I took time, I let the energy integrate, and I sat down on Monday, the 10th of February, early in the morning, and I did a video for you guys and a reading all about these downloads. And would you know that after I've finished the reading and I'm downloading it, the audio is off, and I've recorded it on my phone. So I'm thinking, I'll check it again and try later. So Monday night, under, a little bit more duress and being more tired, I sat down and did the reading on my phone again and really wanted to get it out to you guys. And so was tired and feeling a little bit miffed. And so I wasn't happy with how the message came out because I felt like I had missed some key points. And in terms of the energy I was giving, I didn't care for it. And I also felt like, the quality of the video, again, was a little bit fucked because it was on my phone and where I was located at the time. So anyway, I took some more time off and I did a blackout video for you on Thursday, the 13th of February, the day after the full moon in Leo. And do you know, I took my time because after the first 2 fuck-ups, I sat down and I looked at both videos and I compiled a list. I compiled notes because that's the Virgo in me. So I sat down and I was like, there's nothing I want to miss when I share this message with the collective. So let me go and take notes. And so I hit every single point. So I sat down very pleased with myself and I recorded the whole reading for 90 minutes, and I checked the audio. I did an audio test before then. I did it on my laptop. And would you know that when I went back to upload the video and to play it back, all you could hear was like this crunching sound. You can even hear words. It didn't even make any sense. So at this point, I'm just like, the first time, accidents happen. Second time, we can put it down to you being tired and the energy being off because of that. The third fucking time, though, that's some fucking interference. That's some fucking throat chakra silencing. What's it called? Shut your mouth. Tapa la boca. Ferme la bouche. Shut up spell. Energy going there. Throat chakra block. Communication halts. And I said, I don't get upset about this stuff anymore, or at least I try not to. I'm a human being, but I try not to. And I try not to fall anymore into any kind of fear. Because here's the thing, these wannabe motherfuckers that are messing around with people's energy, that are here to give messages and are messengers, are only ever helping us when the message does come out. Meaning that tonight I purpose, and it is my intention, that this is the best reading times 4, fourth time I've had to do this, that this will be the best rendition of this channeling and the delivery of this message yet. And I intend that it reach the people who need to hear it, whether it's 5 or 5,000 or whatever fucking number, it doesn't matter, because the message, it's time for it to go out. I sat on it for 2 weeks. My guide said, timing, let it sit a little while, and when it's time, you'll know. And I'm feeling very feisty today. I'm feeling the power of the dark mother, the divine mother, her darker aspects. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling her rage. I'm feeling her desire to speak. And fuck it, that's what I'm going to do. So, welcome if you're visiting here for the first time. Welcome if you are returning. Welcome if you're a subscriber. Welcome if you support me on other platforms, on Solarah Rises, on my platform Solarah.xyz. If you formerly supported me when I fucked around over on Substack, welcome. Or if you're with me over on Instagram Threads, welcome one, welcome all. It's great to have you here. I think you already can see and you can know I don't mince words. I like the word fuck. It raises my frequency. It might lower yours. If you don't like cussing, please don't try to change me. Just know that I'm not the reader or messenger for you, and that's all good. I love you. I wish you well. You can love me too and not like what I like, and it's all good. Okay? So, let's get into this message. Woo! So, these divine unions are healing the fabric of the time-space continuum spells that destroyed interdimensional travel and true timeline jumping by way of unauthorized wormhole technologies. I'm going to say that one more time because I know it's a lot. These divine unions are healing the fabric of the time-space continuum spells that destroyed interdimensional travel and true timeline jumping by way of unauthorized wormhole technologies. Now, what I was tuning into on this weekend of February the 7th through the 9th was that we were going through, and we still are going through this. This was just the beginning of when I began to tune into the energy, but it's still ongoing. So it's still a very prevalent message and will continue being so. We are undergoing major timeline repairs. Timelines are being repaired. Corrupted timelines are being almost suctioned out through a grand portal that is gaining in strength and will peak during the full moon in Virgo, which is further exemplified this year by the eclipse gateways. So presently, the South Node is in Virgo, right? And in general, what I've noticed over the years at this point is that the full moon in Virgo seems to act like this huge cosmic timeline death portal. I referred to it last year as a grand extraction vortex. And I'm beginning to realize that wasn't a one-off, right? And I've just been picking up on it more and more. And with the South Node in Virgo right now, that energy that occurs when the full moon is in Virgo, the next full moon in the next maybe 2.5 weeks from time of recording, it's going to be even more potent as a huge cosmic timeline death portal. So let me explain to you how and why that might be the case in accordance with what it is that I've downloaded. Okay, so Full moons are supposed to assist with the clearing of broken and collapsed timelines in general. Every 28.5 days, I think it is, I forget the number, we have, the moon comes back into her fullness. And contrary to popular belief, the moon herself is not evil, although she has been used for evil deeds. Okay, so you never go for the energy or the planet itself. Instead, look at how other beings manipulate and exploit the energy for their own egoic purposes. Okay, so full moons are supposed to assist with the clearing of broken and collapsed timelines in general. You see, once upon a time, before these wannabe motherfuckers came and created the false mater, the false mother system, the false matrix, we had certain energetic mechanics in place on the earth planes so that we wouldn't get stuck in karmic loops, meaning that we would create karma, because karma is how we learn. There's nothing wrong with creating a little bit of karma, but we're not supposed to live in it. And so every single month we had the opportunity to clear out our miscreations for as long as we had learned the lesson from our own errors of using our God powers to miscreate. We had the power to clear the earth so that the frequency of the earth would stay at love and above. We wouldn't drag it down into that fear-based frequency where karmic loops become an inevitability. So I'm going to state this one more time. Love is expansive. Fear is constricting. Fear pulls the frequency down. Okay? Fear-based events, fear-based energies, trauma-based energies, fear, guilt, shame being the lowest frequency of emotional energy. These things pull down our personal frequencies, and it pulls down the collective frequency, which pulls us dimensionally lower and allows for lower consciousnesses to begin to interfere wrongfully. Okay, so the full moons in Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, they work together to clear the grids of the earth. Okay, and the reason why it's specifically the full moons in Cancer, Leo, and Virgo is because those are the signs that are connected to the second quarter of the zodiac. Once you get to Cancer, Leo, and Virgo, or the 4th, 5th, and 6th houses, if you're looking at it through the housing structures, you are dealing with you're dealing with the plugging in of the emotional body, or the foundations of how the emotional planes work through us. Beginning with Cancer as a cardinal water energy. It is the foundation for how we experience our emotional selves. Whatever energy begins that foundation is what we tend to repeat. So in some ways, Cancer represents a motherboard or a matrix in and of herself, which is why Cancer as a sign is connected to our attachment styles. Okay, so the full moons in Cancer, Leo, and Virgo work to clear the grids of the earth. And previously, this ability for the full moons to do this job, it was shut down. It was shut down very specifically to enable louche potency, or what we call louche, right? Louche potency, meaning that they kept trauma timelines open and looping by keeping specific portals in the Earth's grids locked closed. Now, I want to remind you of what I said before. Once upon a time, before these wannabe motherfuckers, before their time in the false matrix, we had certain portals that were connected to Luna, connected to the moon, that helped us every month to cycle through the karmic energies that didn't need to be on the planet, because for as long as they stayed, they would lower our personal frequencies. Before we allowed for certain energies to lower the collective frequency, the beings who would be irresponsible had to be sent to lower dimensions. In other words, the collective wouldn't be pulled back. Everyone would be put in their rightful place in accordance with the frequency they wanted to create based upon their personal free will choices. That's how it worked. Okay, so They kept trauma timelines open and looping by keeping specific portals in the earth locked closed. These portals were supposed to open wide on full moons, almost like a flushing mechanism, right? Where old timelines, traumas, and karmic debris would be flushed out and alchemized into neutrality, returning the energy to 0 point. So this is why when the moon gets full, it pulls the earth's water in. And it does the same in our bodies, right? So when the moon gets full, they say the lunatics come out. Lunacy, they say, is at an all-time high. I don't agree with those terms. I'm just telling you generically what is said. But the reason for this is that when the moon gets full, just like it pulls the water from the, from the vast bodies of water, it pulls the waves onto the earth. The tidal waves rise. The same thing occurs within our energy bodies, because we are the earth and the earth is us. We are just a reflection. We are made in the same way. Okay? And so when the moon is full, it pulls at a lot of our emotions from the subconscious. It pulls it up from what we call the subconscious. So the subconscious and the unconscious is where we have emotional memories that we don't make conscious contact with. In other words, we don't connect our mental body entirely to it. But just because we don't think about it and realize it exists on a mental level doesn't mean it fails to have an effect on our emotional fields. And your emotional body is connected to the waters of the cosmos, including the waters of the earth. Everything is interconnected. Okay? So everything is birthed through water. Everything. And all things are separated and connected by the waters. Okay, so if you want to see how that works on a micro level, look at the human body. And the human body, everything energetically is a microcosm that reflects the macrocosm. The universe and the cosmos, the entirety of it resides within you. And all of this is a reflection of what you are energetically speaking. And so within your body, your physical body, every single cell has like these little things called organelles, and then the organelles are within the cell, and then you have all the cells that make up the organs, and then you have organs that create organ systems, and you have this very elaborate system that's happening beneath your skin. And how do you keep every cell separated? How do you keep organs in their place? By what mechanism? Well, the layers that divide and connect all things so that your body can maintain order, but also connectivity, can connect, the cells can connect and converse together, and the organs can also, but they can also stay in their own place. It's water. It's what we call in biology, I'm a biology nerd, right? We call it a phospholipid layer. And it allows for everything to stay separate, but for certain things to be able to be permeable enough to go through the layer to enter into the cell in order to nourish it. So for those of you who, like to take, what are those vitamins called? Liposomal vitamins. The reason why they're so efficacious is because they are able to cross that phospholipid layer and enter directly into the cell, and that nutrition can be utilized properly by the cell, as opposed to other preparations that aren't liposomal, where most of the time you're just pissing the vitamins out. Okay, so liposoma, fat, body. Okay, so it uses fat as I won't get into this too much because I will go down a rabbit hole. If you're a dork like me and you like that kind of stuff, go and do some research and find out, because I think it's really cool. Okay, so we were never designed to stay looping in and through continual trauma cycles. That's not our divine design. Okay, we didn't come here to be perfect, not at all. Okay, you're here on a journey and you're here to learn, and that's really your only true purpose. it was expected that we would miscreate from time to time. It was expected that we would make mistakes on our way to learning how to embody and express our godhood in this lower dimension. Okay? So as we learned how to embody our love consciousness in a lower dimension, it was expected that we would create what we call karma at times. And please understand and overstand, karma is not a punishment. Karma is actually a really intelligent mechanism within your own soul that allows for you to enter into suffering so that you recognize and realize that you are not on track. That's all karma is. Okay? So we had that mechanism in play so that we would always come back to self, and we would relinquish the energies, the behaviors that were contributing to our own suffering. Okay, because here's the thing. We came here to embody our love consciousness in a lower dimension, where love can exist in these lower planes, but it's not necessarily the rule. So most of you, if you vibe with my content, and I would say all of you who vibe with my content, you're from higher dimensions, right? And you're from dimensions where love is the rule, love is the norm. And this place was created for you to come and experience that in material form, to know what it feels like to experience yourself and others, and to experience love in a body, right? That was kind of the purpose, right? So our job, for as long as we wanted to come here and have that experience, was to anchor in love on these planes by way of learning how to do that. Okay? Because again, these planes are not geared only towards love. When you enter into materialism, lower dimensional energies start to come into play. And that doesn't make lower dimensional energies bad. In fact, your ego is a construct that's connected to lower dimensional energies because it's here to protect you from those that you need to be protected from, so that you stay at love and above. So what do I mean by that? There's no emotion or energy that's bad. Fear in and of itself is not bad. You're not a fear-based being, but there's a time when fear has a message for you to get the fuck away from something because it's going to hurt you. Shame being the lowest emotional vibration, the densest of frequencies, it has a purpose divinely. When you descend to shame, it's to show you have completely separated yourself from your source truth. Okay? And furthermore, it's to show you where you have gone against yourself and where you have gone against others or against the earth that sustains you, so that you're able to make the conscious and conscientious choice from a place of love to rise again into love and above. So the traumas and mistakes were accounted and taken care of by this monthly ability to flush out the lower densities and timelines that would cause the perpetuation of further trauma timelines and realities that didn't cater to the amplification of love. And if they weren't dealt with, they would pull the planet into a lower frequential experience. Okay, so in this way, we were able to correct our own errors without the mass introduction and proliferation of trauma timelines. And in this way, the frequency of the planet was able to be established in love. But it took our conscious and conscientious efforts to maintain this by way of profound self-awareness and accountability. To this end, we knew to stay connected to those that we naturally harmonized with. Okay? So for as long as we did, as long as we stayed in connection with those with which we had a natural harmony, and so loving them in action became easy to do. It became part of our purpose. It became part of our pleasure and our joy. For as long as we gravitated towards staying with those kinds of people, irregardless as to what our frequency was, we were able to keep the earth harmoniously at a resonance of love too. This is exactly why, like I said at the beginning, I love you, but if you don't like me, you don't like that I use the word fuck, or whatever reason you don't like me, you should keep it moving, because at the end of the day, there's a place for everyone. Let's all get in where we fit in. And this is what creates harmony on the earth. We are all one, but we're not all supposed to cohabit together, because when we do, we bring in trauma and war timelines. Okay, so where and why did this go wrong? And what was the reason for the introduction of the wormhole technologies? Let's get into it. In order to keep the earth at this frequency of love, it required for high frequency beings to work together in love and in unions. Romantic, familial, platonic, and otherwise, to keep the frequency stable. And I heard just now somebody ask, well, how was it familial if you didn't pick your family? Well, actually you did, because once upon a time on the planet, people conscientiously called towards them the souls that were a match for them frequentially. So your family was your soul tribe. Okay? High frequency beings have the ability to roam the cosmos in accordance with the access that they have. That access is based upon who they are cosmologically, as well as the individual soul lessons that they've gained mastery over. I'm going to say this again because I just feel like I need to. So high frequency beings that are able to maintain a high frequency, love and above, right, have the ability to roam the cosmos in accordance with the access they gain based on their frequency. And that access and that frequency is based upon who they are cosmologically, as well as the individual soul lessons that they've gained mastery over that has allowed for them to raise their frequency. The higher your frequency is, naturally, the more source codes you embody. And therefore, the more access you have to gates, portals, stargates, and the overall functioning of the grid system, which allows for all forms of interdimensional travel and interdimensional powers to be properly accessed and distributed. It is a sophisticated gatekeeping system which allowed for the order that is necessary to maintain the love frequency on Earth. It wasn't a club, secret society designed to keep others out on a whim or because of ego, but rather to only allow beings access to certain resources once they have proven to hold the soul integrity where they wouldn't exploit that power against themselves and against others. Okay, so all of this was determined by frequency. So it couldn't be faked and it couldn't be tampered with directly. Either you had the cosmological blueprint that matched the frequency that gave you access based upon who you were and the soul lessons you've mastered, and therefore the level of integrity and the closer you've gotten to source likeness. Either you have it or you don't. It's not something that can be bought, traded, stolen. That wasn't possible. And the truth of the matter is, it's still not really possible, because cloaking oneself in a high frequency, excuse me, that's my dehumidifier. Cloaking oneself in another high frequency being's energy is just that. It doesn't make you them. It just makes you able to put on a mask and pretend. Okay? So certain lower consciousness beings decided that they wanted to skip their soul educations and roam in places that they weren't qualified to go to or to be, because they hadn't done the soul lessons to get to these places. They hadn't graduated. They hadn't reached a level of integrity whereby they were able to access that authority legally, right? So high frequency beings were able to create, destroy, and clear timelines, and also recycle the consciousnesses which were a danger to the collective's ability to stay in the frequency of love. I'm going to say that again because it's a lot and I need you to really, because this is a lot of dense information. So I will repeat things from time to time for that reason, right? So high frequency beings were able to create, destroy, and clear or nullify timelines, and also to recycle consciousnesses, which were a danger to the collective's ability to stay in the frequency of love. Because remember, the whole point is to maintain the frequency of love on the planet, because we're coming here to embody love at in a lower dimension, which is predominantly connected to lower frequencies, but we're keeping the frequency raised so that we're able to enjoy our time here in our bodies, right? So that's what the golden age technically was about. These high frequency beings also had the ability, because they were operating in the highest of integrity, it was a frequential thing, not a moral thing. They were also able to note what beings needed to be put into lower frequential realities based upon their inability to hold the frequency that was necessary to keep love on the planet. In other words, if a being decided to be nefarious and not learn their soul lessons, and over time they've been given the chance, and they keep on trying to pull the energies down, they already had made the choice where they wanted to be, and they were simply directed into that place. They made the choice to do what we would call low vibrational shit. So they went to be in the low vibration. They went to be in the energy that matched it. Okay, so these lower consciousness beings wanted the same access that these high frequency beings had, so that they too could alter timelines and create and destroy consciousnesses, entities, and forms for their own purposes. So in other words, not for the purpose of maintaining the collective frequency of love on the planet and also keeping Earth herself in harmony. No, they wanted it for selfish purposes, okay? Because the lower you are in frequency, lower consciousness beings don't really have the ability to think about the collective health. They're very self-centered in the sense that they live in accordance with what it is they want to do for themselves, and they don't give a fuck how it affects the whole chain, the whole ecosystem that they're connected to. Okay, so, but they live in that state of consciousness. It's not a place they visit, because you and I have the ability to visit that state of consciousness and to enact it when and as it's necessary to. Because sometimes you've got to be a problem in a problematic ecosystem also. That's different. That's by choice in order to alchemize the energy, in order to protect yourself. It's not necessarily selfish, it's self-protective. Not quite the same thing. So please understand and overstand, having said that lower consciousness beings, they're not necessarily evil. To think that way is to subscribe to duality consciousness. However, they do lack the ability to not be motivated by their lower base, more selfish desires. They literally know no other way to be, because they haven't mastered the soul lessons, which elevate their consciousness closer to source wisdom, which brings the higher you climb to source wisdom, the more you start to come into the mastery of oneness and knowing how oneness works. And oneness is not that love and light bullshit. Oh, kumbaya, we love everyone, we're all together. No, oneness is knowing where everything must be in order to be in harmony to create the whole. Okay, so this is why lower consciousness beings were not given access to these timeline technologies, because they could not be entrusted to wield that power from a place of integrity and with a view for collective harmony, and as opposed to like their pursuit for their own singular pursuits for power and pleasure. Okay, so it is these beings, these lower consciousness beings, who worked with other off-planet entities to overrun the earth through trickery and mental magic, very specifically. Okay, so once they were able to infiltrate these high frequency unions, more dissension followed, and this is where the Atlantean timelines entered, which brought an end to the age of Leo, which was the last golden age and the sister sign of Aquarius, right? So this brought in the dawn of the Dark Ages, which were founded upon a false matrix grid system. The higher frequency you carry as a being, the more connected you are to source and source power. These lower consciousness beings figured a way to cause Earth to be a closed circuiting system. These lower consciousness beings figured a way to cause Earth to be a closed circuiting system. And in this way, they shut down the ports, portals, gateways, and stargates eventually, which allowed for interdimensional travel by those with the codes, as well as the portals attached to the grids for the clearance of the buildup of fear-based frequencies, timelines, and energies that we now refer to collectively as loosh. You see, they couldn't risk the frequency of the planet rising again, because then high frequency beings would be able to break through their amnesia spells, the veil of amnesia, remember who they are again, and take back control of the true gateway system on Earth, designed for all to live safely in their proper place and in love. Okay, so just to backtrack a little bit on this idea of the veil of amnesia, there have been many high frequency beings who have entered the planet, and many of them have not made it out. They got stuck in the reincarnation cycle because in order to enter the planet when the false matrix took root, there were certain energetic, you could almost say, booby traps and protective mechanisms they created to close the planet off to certain beings. So in order for high frequency beings to enter back onto the planet, they had to consent to certain contracts. We had to consent to certain contracts to be here, and we came here knowing full well that maybe we wouldn't wake up and remember, or maybe even if we tried to wake up and remember, we might still die in tragedy, because of the density, the densities that were on this planet, right? So they had to keep the densities high and the fear and trauma timelines constantly looping to keep the frequency of the planet very low, in order to keep the veiling that they were using that also contributed to the amnesia spells and the mind control, which was also another layer. There's so many layers to the technologies that were used against us, and all of them are connected to various contracts that some of them we came in agreeing to, some of them we have consented to just living here because we didn't know any better, and all contracts connected to the false matrix have a connection to lower consciousness entities that are designed to siphon our energy, because the false matrix was a soul harvesting complex. Okay, so they didn't want you using your high potency energy, but they still wanted access to it, because they knew if they could have access to it and siphon it, they could get access to your divine resources. Okay, so they made Earth a prison planet, and they targeted high frequency beings because they were a good energy source for harvesting, especially if they stayed asleep. And so this is who Yeshua was. Yeshua was a high frequency being who entered the false matrix and remembered who he was. And in that, he became a target and a problem, which is why they then created the myth of the consciousness that we've been channeling our energy into. They call Jesus, who is not actually the Jesus myth we've been fed, is not the same and true biography of the man Yeshua who walked the planet. So there have been a few high frequency beings that are here. They use Yeshua's story to make an example and to create an even bigger possibility for energy harvesting through religion. Okay, because the one thing you are not supposed to do, well, there are many things you're not supposed to do, but one huge ass thing you're not supposed to do if you want to maintain your sovereignty is hand your power over to anything outside of you. You are not supposed to pray to a man and ask that man to take away your sins and all that other stuff and to die for you. That is sacrifice, that is martyrdom, that is a form of opening yourself up and outsourcing your own divine power into another consciousness that was created for you to do so. Now remember I said, to backtrack, remember I said high frequency beings had the ability to recycle and to create consciousnesses on the planet. They had that wisdom. That was taken from us and it was utilized by these other lower consciousness beings with the help of the off-planet entities that also had this intelligence. Okay, so what you put more and more energy towards, you create. So a lot of these things that we believe are real, they are things that have been built off of the constant siphoning or the constant attention that we give, because we've been directed to do that, and in doing so we have created those consciousnesses. So a good example of this is the being we call Satan, who in my opinion is a being that has been born of the collective consciousness's rejection of their shadow. The devil made me do it. No, the devil did not make you do it. In fact, you chose, because you have a free will to do something, and you don't want to, you're too ashamed to see that level of lower consciousness energy in action through you. And so it's easier to outsource it and give it away to another being, or create another being outside of you and channel that energy into it instead. But when you do that, but you're also opening yourself up to energy harvesting, because any part of you that you refuse to see and to claim and you push outside and you put it on something else, anytime you do that, you actually are opening yourself up to energy harvesting, because we are here as creators and as emanations of source to act like God, to take full responsibility for what we create and what we destroy, no matter how quote unquote good or bad it is, because there is no morality when it comes to universal law per se. It's frequential and based upon certain laws that either open you up or don't. It's not an issue of moral standing. You can be a high frequency being and you can do something really low frequency. You can do it because in the interest of harmonizing a situation where something is trying to pull you into a place you're not supposed to be in. But you can also do that out of error. And either way, because you're here to learn, you had the ability, because you're a high frequency being, so you're highly self-aware and accountable. You take accountability for who you are and what you do, no matter how ugly it might seem. And so you have the ability to not deny it, not pretend, not lie, not push it on somebody else, but to take full ownership of it, and in doing so, maintain your sovereignty and your godhood and stay close to energy harvesting. Okay, so one of the main reasons they like to harvest high frequency beings was so they could get access to our timeline creation codes and our codes for the gates, the portals, and the stargates, which allowed for interdimensional travel and technologies to come and go on the planet. So this is why the entire false matrix was actually founded upon destiny swapping. I'm going to say that again. The entirety of the false matrix was founded upon destiny swapping. I've talked about this before. It's in my videos I did like 2 years ago. I've been talking about this for a while. This whole destiny swapping thing is not a fluke that one person does. All of us it's happened to in different ways. Okay, because the whole premise and the foundation of the false matrix was based upon destiny swapping and how you set the foundation of an energy, the motherboard of an energy. Every single cycle must obey the foundation. Otherwise, those cycles cannot last and the foundation will crumble, which is what we've been doing in Ascension. We've been moving away from the foundational energies that created the fuckery, and in doing that, we're collapsing the timelines that kept the fucked up cycles going, and we're obliterating the foundation that began it all as well. So, these lower conscious energies took over the earth by way of destiny swapping. And in doing so, they built whole systems, institutions, corporations, philosophies, programs, and technologies where they initiated others into positions of power and taught them how to energy harvest and destiny swap too. This is why all of this stuff is so prevalent in what we call these secret societies and these factions and these orders and these so-called elite groups. They teach them how to conscientiously, and purposely do this, because in order to get ahead in the false matrix, it meant that you had to adhere to higher levels of destiny swapping practices. This is why so many of you have dealt with this from your family and your so-called friends who've been trying or aiming to climb into the so-called higher echelons of society in this here false matrix. They were happy to sacrifice you and others for the clout, right? And don't get me wrong, the sacrifice system is there for a reason too, a divine reason. Ain't nothing that they use in the false matrix that doesn't have a divine purpose. The sacrifice system that they've been using to destiny swap was put in place so that every single time we had to let go of an old aspect of self that had expired and was no longer helping us to stay on our divine timelines was turning karmic. We were here to sacrifice that, to sacrifice the behavior, to sacrifice the energy, to sacrifice the timelines that would keep us stuck living karmically or ratchetly. Okay? So it's getting hot in here. Or is it just me? Or is it just you? Who knows? Anyway, these are lower consciousness beings. They couldn't travel exactly in the same way as you or as other high frequency beings. They couldn't travel in that way. Remember I said before that high frequency beings had the ability to travel into all manner of areas within the cosmos in accordance with the codes that they carried, right? So the higher frequency you are, the closer you are to source wisdom and source expression, the more authority and access you gain. It's frequential, not egoic. So these lower consciousness beings couldn't travel exactly in the same way. So they needed to find loopholes to emulate and to move similarly. Okay? You could say that their thievery gave them fake IDs and passports, but they still needed their sacrifice rituals and their wormholes to enter into existences which actually belonged to you. Okay, so this is partly why the destiny swapping. Okay, so they needed the sacrifice rituals and the wormholes to enter into existences which didn't belong to them and actually belonged to high frequency beings. Now, I want to interject here, and I also want to say that this is not an ego thing. Lower consciousness beings have the right to ascend like anyone. We all have the ability to evolve and to learn the soul lessons that are necessary for our own individual mastery so we can raise our own frequency. No one was denied that ability. Okay? So I want to be clear about that. So this brings me back to how and why these divine unions are repairing the fabric of the time and space continuum. So the wormhole technologies that these wannabe motherfuckers, I call them wannabe motherfuckers because they are wannabe fuckers of the Divine Mother, really. These wormhole technologies that they created through this ascension process, that technology has been mostly shut down. It no longer really exists. But that didn't rectify and fix the damage that had been done to the fabric of the time-space continuum. Okay? So the way my guidance has been showing it to me is, you know how like in the promotional ads for the Matrix movie, how they show you kind of what it looks like on a computer in the, what's it called? It's like the MS-DOS, almost like the back system that is behind the interface. So we see all of these things on a computer, right? But if you know anything about technology or coding, or you're a MySpace kid, or, you know, a kid of the 80s and 90s when you had to enter a computer by knowing how to use MS-DOS and all that stuff, you'll know that everything is about code, right? And so you know how in the in the Matrix movie, the promotional stuff shows you that black backdrop with all of the binary codes just flowing, like the ones and the zeros, you just see them going. So imagine that that's a representation of the fabric of the time-space continuum, and that all of those numbers and codes that are running very quickly in synchronicities, logarithmically, in ways that we don't even fully understand because it's all quantum, right? So imagine that that's occurring, and then all of a sudden you see whole chunks of code, black space, running through that now. Chunks of code missing, chunks of code. And those chunks of code where code had been stolen that needed to keep the time-space continuum in the divine order that was necessary to keep all things harmonious. And by the thievery of that code, this is how they created their wormhole technologies. Okay, so as we've been healing, ascending, and remembering, bringing ourselves back together, that's what remembering is. The etymology, if you break it down to its true meaning, it means to put yourself back together, Osiris and Isis style. Okay? So as we've been healing, ascending, and remembering, we've been reconnecting with our abilities to create timelines and to jump into realities that actually match who we are. In other words, we have been slowly but surely breaking the amnesia spells and remembering our own timeline creation technologies. Now, you may have found yourself entering timelines that you knew were right. They matched who you are frequentially. You felt at peace in them because they were your true timelines for where you were at the time. And you entered those timelines only to be swiftly and suddenly dragged into lower experiences without knowing why. I'm going to try to explain why that was in accordance with what it is I've been shown, okay? So if you think about timeline jumping in a more linear way, and I'm just using this as an example because timeline jumping is anything but linear, okay? But let's say it is linear. Let's say that to get from one timeline to another, from point A, where you are, to point B, which is your destiny, that it's a straight line. Let's say it's a walk from one corner of a block to the end of another corner of the block. And so you're moving from point A to point B. You're focusing on point B. You're getting closer to point B. You're feeling it because your timelines are shifting. Your reality is changing. You're calling in things that are looking more like point B. Synchronicities are merging into your reality to show you that you are drawing closer to that point, and boom. Think about it. My fellow New Yorkers here, okay? My Manhattanites, not even just Manhattan, it was all the boroughs. Those big ass pit holes in the street, right? Think about it this way. You're walking from one end of a block to another. You're not paying attention because you got your eyes on getting to point B, and boom, you fall into one of those pits, or better still, you fall into an open manhole. That's an even better analogy. You fall into an open manhole because you're not paying attention. Should that manhole have been opened? No. Should you have had to pay attention to where you were going in that way? No, because that manhole should have been protected and covered. It should have had the proper coding so that the time-space continuum was not disturbed, so that you could travel to where it is that you were supposed to go with ease. But because these ratty ass wannabe motherfuckers been chewing at your code, now there's wormholes that on your way to your true timeline you're falling into. And when you're falling into the wormhole, because the wormhole has come into existence from a lower timeline, because that's the true timeline that lower consciousness being belongs in, you get dragged into that energy instead. You get dragged into that experience, that lower reality that doesn't match. Now, I want you to understand something else, because people tend to think that if a lower consciousness being is operating and living in a lower frequency, that in some way it's bad. It's not. Suffering happens when you live outside of who you are, especially when you succumb to living in lower realities that don't match who you are. Okay, so if you at this frequency, you're living your highest timelines, and somebody who has a different and a slightly higher frequency than you tries to live in lower timelines, it constricts the energy field, and it causes you to have to be your expansive self in a constricted space not made for you because it's too small. It's like having to live your whole life in a fucking little suitcase. Those tiny ass suitcases you can take on the airplane. Imagine having to live energetically like that when you're the size of a country. You get what I'm saying? So the higher frequency you are, the more expansive and large your energy field is. Okay, so you are not supposed to be contained in smaller realities. Lower consciousness beings can fit into those realities, and they can thrive too, because that's where they fit in on an energetic level. And when it's time for them to expand and grow, they move to the next level. So to put high frequency beings into lower consciousness realities causes us an immense amount of suffering that it doesn't for lower consciousness beings. Okay, and I'm not talking about earthly things here either. Okay, I'm not talking about the earthly things that the false matrix created in its simulation to mimic certain states of consciousness. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm not talking, for example, about poverty states and all of that. That's all a part of their simulation, because the truth of the matter is, in divine order, everything and everyone is provided for in accordance with what it is they need to live in accordance with their true timelines. Okay, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole right now. Okay, so okay, you'd be going along, you'd be doing well, activating the fuck out of your power, timeline jumping towards realities that actually match your true frequency, when seemingly out of nowhere, boom, you'd find yourself in a lower reality, in a lower timeline. And sometimes The more this happened, you might have even actually seen it occurring. I know that I started to notice when I was being pulled, I was being dragged back. I could feel it and I could see it in what was happening in my synchronicities. I could see it even before it began to materialize. Okay, so, and some of this, of course, was intentional spell work. Of course, but the wormhole technologies, they also facilitated, because the whole point was to keep you as a high frequency being in a lower reality so that they could continually steal from you. And not for nothing, the loosh that they could get from high frequency beings trapped in trauma and despair was so much more superior to the loosh that they could harvest from other beings. So the higher you are in frequency, which is also why they had a very healthy sacrifice system, 1111 on my clock, that involved younger ones, because younger beings tend to be, not always, they tend to have a higher frequency. They're closer to source. Frequency is determined by your closeness to source wisdom. Okay, and when children are born, they tend to embody that more. Okay, so this is why there was such a premium on that energy and a premium on high frequency beings. And if they could get you in childhood, which most of the time they did, because there was a target on your back from the minute that you entered this planet, even though you didn't know it. If they could get you in childhood, then they could get a really powerful source of loosh, because they would begin then and they would continue using that childhood wounding to continue to control your reality, to keep you stuck in your childhood wounds. Okay? And those of you who are connected to the grids in very powerful ways, those of you with heavy Cancerian and fourth house placements specifically, were definitely utilized for this purpose. Because Cancer and the fourth house connect us directly to the true earth grids that are under the protection of the dragons. So you were literally falling into timelines that were meant for the lower consciousness beings who were energy harvesting you for your access codes. And even as you woke up and you began to connect with your higher timelines, you would fall into these wormholes and exist in the true realities that were meant for them, not for you. So imagine, to take you back to that analogy of the manhole, right? Imagine that you're walking around, living in your timeline, going from point A to point B, and you fall into a manhole, and you stay in that manhole, and you have full hearing of everything that's going on ahead in your true timeline above you. You can hear everything that's happening on the street level, which, let's say, is your true timeline, but you're trapped underground listening instead. This is energetically what many of you were going through when you were watching other beings taking your shit, and you knew full well that whatever timelines that they were in were rightfully your timelines. And every time you tried to access them, re-access them, not even doing anything to them, because you don't need to do shit to them, right? But anytime you tried to access that, you somehow were being pulled, and they were somehow being pulled higher into your reality, right? And you have to watch that, which creates even more trauma, right? So they're doing this on purpose now. This is why they wanted these people doing it to you who were your so-called family members and friends. They wanted the ones close to you doing it so that you would observe. And even if you didn't know on a conscious level what was happening, your soul knew. Your soul knew, and you felt that. And they loved it because it meant that they could harvest more of your trauma. Because that's how sick these wannabe ass motherfuckers were and are. This creation of their wormhole technology, it caused tears and rips in the fabric of the time-space continuum. Big chunks of coding, like I said before, were missing. This caused timeline distortions, disruptions, dysfunctions, aberrations, and bleed-throughs. Not for nothing, you should also know that there's a reason why binary is what it is, 1 and zeros. 1 is masculine energy. It's linear. 0 is feminine energy. It's like a vagina. When you put the two of them together, you have life, right? And this isn't just speaking of masculine and feminine energy. This is speaking about the polarities that come together to harmonize and to create wholeness that exists in all things. So the lower you are dimensionally, the more polarity becomes obvious. The higher you are to source energy, the less polarity exists. So duality consciousness isn't even a thing in higher realms and higher dimensions, which is why right now on the planet you have an influx of beings who identify as transgender or non-binary. And beyond the agendas that the false matrix is pushing, because there definitely are agendas, because they always like to take something that is occurring on an evolutionary level and utilize it to create distortion. But the truth of the matter is many Uranian beings from Uranian timelines are entering the planet right now to assist us in anchoring in and rooting in the Aquarian wisdom and technologies that need to re-enter the earth to raise us up into this new golden age. Beings from higher dimensions where gender doesn't exist. Gender as a construct starts to exist the lower you get in dimension, because duality becomes an issue, or I should say the poles move further apart. It's all the same energy. Masculine, feminine, it's actually all one and the same at a higher level because it's together. The lower you come, the more the poles of that energy separate. This is how you can create materially. So not only was the breaking of this coding, the breaking of the coding that they're stealing like little rats with cheese, stealing the chunks of code, right? Not only was it affecting timelines, it was also causing imbalance in the masculine and feminine principles designed to create harmony on Earth. It was creating this duality consciousness that was actually causing divisiveness, separation, and war, when really we're here to master the utilizing of pole energies to create oneness as it appeals to self. So what do I mean by that? All of us are as unique as the fingerprints we have. We're all different recipes, you could say. And we all, our recipes for our own soul purposes require different levels of ingredients. If you are here to wage war against these wannabe motherfuckers in the false matrix, then maybe you have mastered more lower consciousness energies in effect of knowing how to harmonize. So maybe you are here to wield more righteous anger. And then there are beings who are more love and light inclined naturally, not because they're faking and gaslighting and spiritually bypassing and denying and pretending that their shit don't stink. Not those ones. There are actual beings who have higher quotients of that love and light philosophy and mentality, because that's what they're here to do. And there are some beings who are able to go into the darker realms and not lose their divinity. And so they've been entrusted to utilize that darkness and that energy and that wisdom in order to harmonize certain things on the planet that require that touch. Okay, so our individual jobs on our own soul purposes, it is to master how we utilize polarity to keep ourselves in internal harmony, and to do that in a way that also helps us to live in accordance with our soul purpose and what it is we came here to enact on the earth. Because understand and overstand that lower consciousness beings are also source energy. No? So, there are unions coming together rapidly now. And the coding of these unions coming together is repairing the breaches that were made in the fabric of this time-space continuum. And in doing so, it is getting rid of all of the remnants of the destruction caused by the wormhole technology. So think about it like this. We've had an onslaught of union codes entering the planet for a very long time now. But those union codes needed to activate, they needed to integrate, and they activated and integrated as we did the work of coming back into union with self. And now as we come back into union with self, we are able to put our true frequency onto the planet and call in those who match that frequency, who are here to help us magnify that code that brings harmonious union back onto the earth. And I'm talking about harmonious union not as two people coming together. I'm talking about the harmonious union that makes all organic creation possible. I'm talking about the re-putting together of the code that's been fucked up because of the wormhole technology. So think about it like this. These union codes have become integrated, they're mature, they're materializing, they're happening in you, they're happening in me, they're happening in real life, real time divine unions, both romantically and platonically, and those beings who are coming together because they have a soul mission and a purpose to bring forth the golden age codes and the new earth timelines. Those beings are finally able to find themselves because everything in the find themselves, and one another, because everything in the false matrix was designed and targeted towards them to keep them apart. But now they can't do that anymore. So as we're coming together, the union, the separation that's been created in the time-space continuum by all the wormhole technology is repairing itself too. So as the repair is happening in the fabric of the time-space continuum, all of those little holes are closing up now through the union templates and timelines coming into place. There is a grand expulsion of the corrupted timelines into this big death portal that is reaching its pinnacle of suction and extraction on the full moon in Virgo and eclipse season. And this is, of course, the eclipse is amplifying this. It's amplifying the eclipse portals and gates opening through this season are amplifying the extraction of these destructive technologies, and not really the technologies so much as the remnants of what those technologies have left behind that have stopped us from being able to properly travel. I'm talking about interdimensionally, although everything will mimic itself materially also in the 3D. This is why there's been so much news in the past few years about borders. Understand and overstand also, we are in a number 9 year. 9 is the number that comes before 10. When you get to 10, you're back to binary, 1 and 0. 9 is also connected to Sagittarius astrologically. Sagittarius is the sign of the zodiac that connects us with our ability to start to travel interdimensionally. In traditional astrology, they say Sagittarius is what gives you, helps you to travel. You're a traveler, you're an adventurer, and all that other stuff. And it's a very limited way of thinking because it's not limited to just traveling on this planet. Sagittarius is the medicine and the wisdom of the zodiac that helps us to activate our ability to travel interdimensionally, because it is through Sagittarius that we begin to activate our God code by choosing to step away from the false matrix formulas and to create our own philosophies and formulas that adhere to us on an individual basis based upon who we are divinely. We learn that through Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the sign of the zodiac that begins to help us to walk by faith. So these union codes. Okay, so sorry, I missed this part. So the expulsion of these corrupted timelines and this big death portal that is, reaching its pinnacle from what I'm, downloading on the full moon in Virgo. These gates and portals are opening right through to Aries season. So these union codes are first activating in us as individuals, and this activation then calls in those with the same union codes who have also integrated these codes and these activations within themselves. And the more we come back together, and it doesn't even have to be physically, to be completely honest, because some of y'all be connecting to people telepathically now again too. And the more we come back together, the faster that the corrupted timelines get flushed out, and the faster that the time-space continuum is repaired. And these lower consciousness beings lose access to all the timeline technologies and codes that they could only steal from us as long as we weren't in full union with self. And for as long as we were unaware of who we actually are. And say that again. Okay, so the more we come back together, the faster the corrupted timelines get flushed out, the faster the time-space continuum is repaired, and the faster these lower consciousness beings lose access to all the timeline technologies and codes they could only steal from us for as long as we weren't in full union with self and unaware of who we actually are. Anyone noticed of late that the karmic attacks and fuckery are at a whole different level? An increase. But it doesn't really affect you as much as the attacks are real. It doesn't affect you as much because of where you are, and also because in full honesty, in full disclosure, those beings that throw you those energies are only activating you higher into your power. And that was part of what you agreed on in order to come back here. You knew that when you came back into the false matrix, the only way to break out of the densest of traumas was to experience it for yourself and to alchemize it. That's the only way. So you chose to do that. And I'm not saying that's your lot, because, self-sacrifice, martyrdom, all that we once adhered to, that generational curse breaker, cycle breaker story, it's over. You ain't here to sacrifice. Hold on a second. I'll call them back. You ain't here to sacrifice yourself for nobody. You ain't here to transmute shit for anyone anymore. You never really were supposed to. Because when you transmute karma on behalf of other beings, you rob them of their karmic lessons and therefore their ability to ascend. Because in order to ascend, you must graduate from your own soul lessons, not have other beings take them on your behalf. So all of that bullshit with other people who like to say all the time, I'm just going to transmute their energy. That is part of energy harvesting, keeping energy harvesting cycles alive. That's keeping the karmic loop open. The only time we transmute on behalf of other beings is if they need help and they've learned their lessons. Right? We don't transmute people who are running around acting like fools, trying to use their God power to wrongfully destroy and, from the wounded ego. That's not what we're here to do. We are here to assist one another, divinely. when and as that's necessary. When things get too dense, that's not the same thing. So, what this means, the faster we come back together and the corrupted timelines being flushed out and them losing all of their access to our timeline creation technology. What this means is that free travel is opening again for beings with the true passports and energy signatures that match where they desire to go. In other words, if you have the codes and you have the remembrance of how to use those codes, you are able now to once again, or you will very, very soon, you already are able to now. It's going to take some time for you to remember how to do it on these planes, but the ability to do it is here. You are able to travel interdimensionally, utilizing the passport afforded you by the codes that you hold based upon your frequency, your purpose, and your energy signature. The true energetic boundaries and gates are being reopened. So, you know how, like in the false matrix, there were beings that were going to places that they weren't supposed to go to, right? So a big example of this is through the systems where bribery was actually utilized in order to get people into places that they weren't supposed to be. And, everywhere that's being exposed right now, the United States is a wonderful example of where that corruption is being uncovered, where so many bribes have been taken place in order to launder money, steal money, redirect funds, steal taxpayers' money, all that stuff, right? That's just a reflection. The material planes is always just a reflection of what's going on in the spiritual planes, not the other way around. It's as above, so below. So what you're seeing playing out here in real time is a reflection of what has already occurred in the spirit. We're past that, spiritually speaking. We're past that in the other planes. But it plays out slower here on the material plane. So in other words, the energetic boundaries and gates that keep beings where they're supposed to be in the spiritual planes, they've already been reinstated. Okay, so it takes longer to move through the lower planes until it becomes materialized. So even in the dream realm, it's being reinstated, because the dream realm is one dimension higher than the material planes. Yes, so I was even talking about, I had my monthly group Q&A with my Jade member group from my platform Solarah.xyz. So we were talking about that, about the shift in dreams and what's been occurring. And I've been experiencing that too, seeing certain things occurring in my dreams where things are returning into order, because your dreams are actually more real than the illusion you live through in this material plane. You only believe this material plane to be more true than your dreams because you were programmed into that nonsense, right? So your dreams are supposed to be a creation portal where you can go to and connect with cosmic energies to paint the picture of what it is you desire to materialize. Once upon a time, and some of you can do this still, you never lost this ability, and some are still remembering how, you could move through your dreams and make things happen like you do in real time. But because of the binding, the blinding, the veiling, the fuckery, the spells, the family, because you sleep with a whole bunch of people that don't like you, you best believe their spirits are attacking you constantly in sleep and in dream time. Okay? So, the fuckery where you were not allowed to have autonomy over your own dreams, that's leaving too. And you might see that in the quality of your dreams. Okay, so lower consciousness beings are losing any stolen capacity they had to manifest off of us, or create timelines they're not qualified yet to live in. And I do the manifest because if y'all been hanging with me for a while, I don't fucking like that word. Don't like it. I'll use it, sometimes because that's what people have come to understand as creation. And I will also say there's nothing inherently that's all bad. But manifestation means that you are borrowing energy from things that already exist to create your reality. It can be a form, not always, but it can be a form of energy harvesting. And the truth of the matter is, when you are a high frequency being, you don't need to manifest. You can create ex nihilo. You can create by connecting directly to source energy and pull through anything that your mind conceives, and you can materialize it. You don't need to borrow from other people, from their ideas, from their inspiration, from their vision boards, from their this, from their... You don't need to do any of that. That's not really creating your reality. That's still creating false matrix realities under the guise of being spiritual. It's not the same thing. So high frequency beings are getting their true resources, technologies, codes, and abilities back as they come into alignment with who they actually are. So some of the biggest battles that you've probably been through of late with these fucking attacks of these, these karmic energies that want to keep you in the cycle with them because they haven't done the work. Some of the biggest ones will be to try and pull you out of your divine identity. And it's always been the case, but it's picked up to get you to forget who you are. Furthermore, unions which were perpetually and purposely kept apart are breaking through the distortions and repairing the fabric of the time-space continuum. What are the distortions I'm talking about? That whole runner, chaser, codependent, transactional love thing that we had going on because they bastardized what love was really supposed to be about, and they utilized the whole twin flame thing for further energy harvesting intentions, that kept beings, the true beings that are supposed to come together, it kept them apart, kept them constantly having to repair from the trauma and all that other shit. We are breaking through those distortions, and we're partnering with people who, when we come together, we're working together to break through the distortions. Once upon a time, those distortions were so strong and we were still not aware. So when they would enter into our unions, we would turn against one another. And that's not to say that it's an easy peasy thing. Those distortions are still being thrown at beings, are still being thrown at us, but we're coming together and we're seeing things, and we're coming together and we're seeing it together, and we're learning to alchemize and to heal and to rise and to break the fucking matrix. And in doing so, breaking the false matrix, and in doing so, we're repairing the fabric of the time-space continuum. We're repairing it from those spells and distortions, and we're weakening those spells and distortions until they have no power left at all. And at that point where those spells and distortions have been stripped of their power because you see things as they are and you alchemize them in accordance with your truth, and you stop believing in the manufactured lies that are designed to take you out of your true identity and contracts, it's when you break the spells and you break the false matrix. So we've entered a 0 point here. And whenever you're dealing with Pisces, being the last sign of the zodiac, you're dealing with the beginning and the end of all. The Vesica Pisces is a vagina. Okay, you're dealing with the void, the beginning and the end of all, the void. So we've entered that 0 point. The feminine principle of creation and destruction, where all is born and all must go to die and be transformed. We're in that portal right now, and we've been in it for some time. And Pisces season is always going to be very intense for this this portal of this 0 point portal of death and rebirth, or what I call the Alpha Omega portal is this bridge between Pisces and Aries, where the full moon in Virgo comes in. That's a full moon that's expressed in that time. So we're in that right now. We're in that. We're in that 0 point potential energy to get rid of things, and to get rid of them magnanimously, and to come out of it crowned in our source truth. That's Aries energy, your I am truth. You arise out of the Pisces energy into Aries, crowned with your divine identity. Okay. Whew. I did it. It's already been an hour and a half. So I'm going to just go into my dragon and my unicorn deck. I've actually mixed these decks. I've mixed these decks. They're both Diana Cooper decks. So one's the Dragon Oracle cards, and I think the other one's called like the Magic of Unicorns or something. And I mix them together because the dragons and the unicorns work together to stabilize material timelines on the earth planes. And you'll know this is true because almost every single flag shows you this, of the old world, especially old world countries. And if it's not in their flag, it's in their seal or their family crest. So those of you who, are my fellow UK dwellers, it's on all your money. Why you got a dragon and a unicorn on your money if it ain't true? Why is it on all of your courts? Canada also. What's up with that? That's what's up with that. And the dragons and the unicorns are connected very much to the source grids above and below that are helping us to bring forth through us the source energy, because we're bridges, right? We are the bridges that connect the source grids to the earth grids. So the dragon and the unicorns are very, very powerfully helping us in this endeavor, and they have been, and I do have a meditation. My apologies to those people who I owe a meditation to. It's coming. It's been cooking, and every time I thought it was ready, my guidance was to chill out and to wait. So I do have a meditation that is coming out, where I got some help from the dragons and the unicorns, to impart some activations to you two in letting go of the false matrix story and rising into the new earth timelines as a quantum meditation that I will be releasing very soon. Quick announcements while I play around with the deck and shuffle. I have made audio versions of all of my decrees. I think there's like maybe 6 of them at this point. So all the written decrees that were in my Ko-Fi shop, there are now audio versions of that too. And as always, with all of my decree work, it is absolutely free, or you are welcome to make a donation in exchange, and I appreciate those of you who do and who can. I keep it free for the most part, just because I want 1144. I want people to have access to these tools. And decree work is personal and subjective. I don't expect people to adhere to my decrees per se. I actually really love when you just use my decrees as templates to learn how to write your own. But some people don't like to write their own, and that's fine. The activations are still in there, and maybe later on down the line you'll be inspired to write your own decrees. But either way, those are available. Today is February the 23rd. I have one more week of a special on my divine alignment readings before they go back to full price for the month of March. So I have one more week of February left. So you can book still. You might not see me this week, but you can book. And once you've booked, email me and we will schedule a time. In other words, even though you're using the code or you're utilizing the discount for February, you might not be able to get the reading one-to-one with me until the first 2 weeks of March. But you can go ahead if you want to, and even if you want to actually use that reading at a later date and you just want to make use of the discount. I'm going to allow for that too, so you can do that also. That special is going to end in a week's time. So those are my divine alignment one-to-one readings via video chat. Yes, if you'd like to book a soul recovery session with me, a 60 or a 90-minute time with me, you can do so also. I'll provide the links in the description box below if you would like to join me on Solarah.xyz, where every day, you know, you get your daily alchemy for the day. And if you want to sign up to the tiers, you get access to my longer form writing and updates, as well as if you're part of my Jade member crew, we meet every month and we have a beautiful time together. Then you can join me over on Solarah.xyz. If you would like to donate to my ascension and my rise and my ability to create and get these messages out to the collective, you can also do so through the various payment links that I am putting in the description box below and in the comment section. I think that's it for now. And as always, a huge thank you to all of you who show your support in a myriad of ways. I really do appreciate you. Some of you guys are so generous, not only with your resources financially, but also with your encouragement. And I thank you. I thank you for helping me in this ascension also. Finally, we've got a dragon card. And we got a unicorn card at the bottom. So at the bottom of the deck, we do have spiritual warrior. Show you are a wise leader. Command the universe. I love it. Look at that lion energy. The lion and the lamb. You see that? The lion and the lamb. The lion and the lamb. And of course, there's the unicorn in the backdrop too. So timeline creation codes and leadership and what that means. Wise leaders are not people who boss other beings around. Wise leaders are the ones who take such high accountability for what it is that they are creating with their own consciousness and decisions, that they lead themselves, and in doing so harmonize self and harmonize the planet, and from that place they're able to lead others. It's not a position that most people choose to want to be in egoically. It's just something that falls upon you. Some of you are being activated through these union codes, through these shifts, through the coming together of the time-space continuum. You're rising into your true authority, which you always had that authority until it was stolen from you on the earth. And some of you, this has very much to do with your counterparts and you coming into union, because your ability to rise into the fullness of your purpose here is connected to the agreements you have with them, because not because you're not a whole being in and of, by yourself, but really because in order for the distortions that have created duality consciousness to come back into place, it must be materialized not only in spirit but in body. So when two beings come together that hold masculine and feminine, that hold, we all have masculine and feminine energy, but they present their masculine and feminine energy in physical form, and they come and they merge in the physical. That is the sublimation of what has already been done in the heavens and bringing it back onto the earth planes. So 37, when you break that down, that again is 10. That's binary. As I say that, 2350, 55 on my clock, 1150, which is 10. So 3 for me is the Empress, and 7 is the Chariot. So this is all about the divine feminine energies and templates, not only returning on the planet, but like moving very quickly back into the moving very swiftly back into its place in all things that allow for us to progress on our divine contracts, our divine legacies, and also in the creation of our golden child energy, which is what we're here to create from the union of our masculine and feminine energy on an individual and a level with other beings, right? So the golden child energy, for some of you, that is literally a child, literally children, because that's necessary too. You have to ground the energy in through a physical representation. But for some of you, the golden child energy is projects, it's purposes coming to life. It's the things that you came together to create. Golden orange dragon expands your light for ascension. Be a peaceful warrior, help those in need, and remember your magnificence. Golden orange dragon. And of course, this is very connected to both sacral and solar plexus energy. Your solar plexus energy is very much connected to your ability to reunite with your source code that allows for you to pull in your divine identity and to embody it. It begins in the solar plexus, where you begin to make decisions that reflect that materially, and the sacral chakra is how you begin to birth those decisions. It's a birthing portal, right? So remember I was saying before, like this whole thing of high frequency beings being constricted into energies and timelines that were too small for who they were, hence the reason why it caused so much suffering and therefore increased their ability to extract more quality loosh from you. It's been unsafe for many of you to move into the full expansion of what your energy field can hold. It was unsafe because of detection. It was unsafe because there's so many mechanisms that have been put into place in the false matrix that when you expand and move into a higher frequency, you get pinged back energetically. All the Agent Smiths come out of play to put you back into place, to play with your fear and to make you think that moving past certain barriers and ceilings isn't possible. And that's a lie. So there's something here also about the dragons helping you to re-expand back into your truth. And that, of course, is also very much connected to your solar plexus ability. And as you re-expand back into your truth, this is when you are able to not only call in like-minded beings in your soul tribe, it's also when you get reinstated in whatever authority you hold cosmologically and you get to embody it on the earth. So the dragons are actively helping us to no longer be afraid to expand into the fullness of who we are. I've been all about herbs today, so let's get into my Herbal Wisdom deck. This is a deck I created myself. I actually, for those of you who are on Solarah.xyz and are, my members in, I think it's Larimar and Jade, then you would have received today on Sunday, January the 23rd, your Moonrise Musing was all about herbs to utilize in Pisces season to help you to dream and to connect with your dreams and remember your dreams and be protected in your dreams. It was all about that. So I've been on a herbal kit today with my writing. So let's go into the herbal deck and see what comes out for you guys here too. Okay. We have anise seed. Anise seed, not the same as star anise. Anise seed looks more like fennel or caraway, and it has a very strong licorice flavor. It is a seed that 23:55 on my clock. If you work with Anubis likes anise seed, and it makes a beautiful tea just by itself. Anise seed is a herb of the air. right? It's a mercurial herb, and it's a herb that helps to remove mental magic and projections, negative thought forms. So those things that come towards you and enter into your mental fields that don't have business being there because they don't align with who you actually and actively are as a divine being. But it may very much be connected to the programming that you have come under because of the false matrix and because of the many programs that kept us thinking apart from self, right? So for those of you who are under heavy psychic attack, I very much recommend working with anise seed, working with peppermint, rosemary, sage, licorice root. Those are all really great herbs for breaking past mental fuckery and mental distortions designed to take you out of your own mind. Okay, so anise seed can also be used to uncross evil eye and to help aid in protection as well as proper spirit communication, right? So clearing the air. There's a lot of that shit going on right now, you know, as beings, their shadows collapse and they haven't done the work and they don't know how to use tools in order to do self-inventory and heal. And so there's a lot of projection, there's a lot of evil eye, you know. So if you need some help, anise seed is a good one for that. Allspice berries, I love this. So allspice berries increases the focus and energies of a spell and the determination of its outcome and the energy of success. So I like to use allspice berries are a spice unto themselves. You know, before I got into all of this, I used to think, because I used to bake, you know, like I've been a baker since I was a kid, and I just assumed that allspice was just a mixture of sweet aromatic spices, but it's not. It's an actual berry that kind of resembles like a big fat peppercorn or like a juniper berry. And it has the resonances of like nutmeg, cinnamon, clove, all of those herbs. It kind of tastes even a little bit of, you know, black pepper notes in there too. But allspice is a spice unto itself, and it's great for... I don't ever work with allspice alone. I like to use allspice to add extra kick and power into what I'm already doing. So allspice is really good for like enforcing your will upon something. And we only enforce our will upon things that are for us. We don't do it to other people, because then we are actually in breach of universal law. So whenever you're dealing with utilizing your will to bring forth something, that is heavily connected again to the solar plexus chakra. So this is showing me right here that the message that is coming through is that some of you need to really focus on taking back your power and your authority over your narrative, because there's a lot of mental energies that are wanting to distort the way you're seeing yourself, the way you're seeing things. They want to distort the energy. They want to distort it in unions also. That's a really important thing to know. A lot of that mental magic that caused the inception of the false matrix, they use mental magic to cause dissension in the original unions that were together on the earth in the previous golden ages, keeping the earth in harmony through their partnerships. They caused dissension in those unions through using projections, illusions, mental magic. So you best believe that as you come together, those energies are still going to be at play, because as you know by now, if you've been chilling with me for a while, the way an energy enters is the same way it must leave. So the same attacks that came in to cause the separation of the union are the same energies that are going to come in when the union's coming back together to try to cause separation too. Coffee. So you've got two things here that are all about speeding up or adding extra power to a working, because coffee is actually another you know, coffee technically is a fruit, but we'll call it a herb, you know, because all plants are technically herbs. Coffee is another 0000 midnight reset on my clock. Coffee is another herb that works to add power to something that you've already set into motion, and to, in doing so, further enforce your will upon the working, kind of like allspice. Different, but very similar, right? Coffee in and of itself is very powerful for grounding energy onto earth. It's very earthing, right? It can also be used to accelerate things. And one of my favorite things you can use coffee for, because almost everyone has coffee, right? Coffee is a very powerful uncrossing agent. And this uncrossing energy has been coming through, right? With the aniseed. I'm sorry, I know you can't really read that, but read my writing because my cards are so small. But it says on there, uncrossing the evil eye specifically. So coffee is a very wonderful herb to work with in uncrossing work. A quick uncrossing rinse at the end of a shower with coffee, or putting it in your bath water. It's very powerful for cleansing your energy of things that want to stick and cause you to not see yourself the way you actually are. So uncrossing work is where you begin to pull apart energies that are designed to keep you stuck, really, to keep you in knots, to keep you fucked. But uncrossing to me is interesting because a lot of the time we cross ourselves also. So uncrossing is one of those things that is very much connected, in my opinion. Crossing energies are more to do with wounding, right? With wounding. And all spells are designed to exploit and to feed off of your wounding. But crossing work very specifically connects to that. So this is why when you have people who are close to you who don't wish you well, a lot of the evil eye they send you is a way to cross you and to bind you, because they also know you on an emotional and a mental level, which gives them more access to the ability to mess with your energy. Because the more that you connect with someone on an emotional and a mental way, in a physical way, the more access you have to them and who they are or who you've programmed to be, the more you're able to mess with their energy. So I often think of, and it's not exclusive, and this is, my opinion, but I often think of crossing work is often done even unconsciously by beings who don't wish you well. So this is where I'm going to end, because we're 1 hour and 51 minutes in. But I think that this subject needed the time, and I'm glad I was able to give you that. Another announcement. On next Saturday, the 29th of February, I will also be hosting a TAROTSTROLOGY group session where we will be looking at Chiron in your chart. So my TAROTSTROLOGY group sessions, we come together in small groups. They're no larger than 5 people. That's my direction moving forward, 5 people in the group. Sometimes it's less, which is actually kind of cool also, right? So Chiron, we're looking at your wounded warrior story, because it's time to alchemize that into your alchemist resurrected story. And Pisces, because you are letting go of so much of the old timeline cycles, ID entities. It's a wonderful time to dive into your Chiron. I will be doing the TAROTSTROLOGY group I just hosted yesterday, which was really wonderful. It's really fun. Shout out to the beautiful ladies that joined me for that yesterday. I will be doing that one again in this Pisces season. That one was all about diving into your Pisces story, your 12th house story, and karmic cycles. So, yes, that's it. I'll have another group coming up this weekend too. I have an idea for what it is I want to do. So please, watch the community board for more information. And for those of you on Solarah.xyz, you will also get an email about that. So I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. Thank you for the work you're doing on yourself and for the planet. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.